Thank you, Olaf. Thanks a lot. The Raster Noton label has a little bit more than 20-year experience now. How did your music and the label's music changed since the starting point of it?
Interesting question. I think in the very beginning of Raster Noton, we had our focus in a specific sound. Yeah. So I would say over the years, we more and more was going into a structure in the music. So, but in the very beginning, we really tried to figure out how can you work just with one or two or three sounds. For example, a sine wave, a noise, just an impulse, something like that. So because I mean, when we started the label, so all the computer technology came to us, and it was completely different from analog world. And we wanted to figure out what can we do, what sounds specifically like a digital, like a computer.
Yeah. And since the beginning, it was always a matter of sound and vision. When you think about one of your artistic projects, how do you imagine and to plan to combine the two elements?
Yeah, it's really up from the situation. For example, tonight we are in a typical club situation where the music has a much more social function than in a concert, for example. So I would say in general, when I start music, I'm a very visual person, and so since I hear sound, I can imagine a shape or some movements, and so since I'm young, I'm also interested into film and especially into cuts, and so this storytelling without a dialogue. This is something what I really enjoy in some movies, and this I try to use more in a concert situation. I try to use this on a very abstract level for the music. Yeah. So I mean, it's also, I mean, we are not a traditional band, yeah. So and I think it's not so interesting to see somebody behind a computer. So, and for a computer it's very easy to generate visuals. That's why we started visuals.
You grew up in the DDR. Which kind of influence had that peculiar period in your musical and artistic education?
Yeah, in the GDR, it's funny. If I look back now, I had the feel we was much more close to minority music than I think today. It's more difficult to get this kind of music. So we had a lot of radio stations from West Germany, but also during the night there was something on Eastern radio stations. So, and it was mainly not the music for the masses. So it was always experimental music, avant-garde music, even some noise experiments, free jazz. So we thought it's very normal that a Western human is listen to this music, but much later we recognize, no, it's not so normal. It's just a little scene, and this scene they had a spot during the night in the radio, and this was let's say our main sound source or our main influence, the radio. Yeah. We also had records, but what was also a little bit special in East Germany, because we was a little bit under-informed, yeah. So we spent in general a record more time. So I remember records I didn't like in the first half year, but I had to listen again because I hadn't so much records. And yeah, after a while, after 1 year, so I became more familiar with the concept, and so maybe these are my favorite records.
And an electronic live music and video show has a complex preparation and a complex response. Are you prepared for a specific kind of reaction from the audience? Is there a sort of interaction sometimes? Did you also get surprises sometimes?
Not from the visuals. I mean, you mean the visualization, yeah?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the surprises are coming when I sit at home and I try to figure out what is doing this knob or what else. So, as I said, so I mean, I really enjoy to play in a club, like in a dance club. And I think at this moment when the music starts, I didn't watch the visuals. I forget the visuals. So there are some situations where, for example, as bigger the stage is, as more important gets the visuals because you get tiny on stage. So let's say for some seated shows, I would give much more eye to the visuals. But for me, let's say the fundamental philosophy behind is that I work with the visuals like a light animation. So for me, it's not so. I don't want to tell a story. I don't want to interact with the audience. I just want to give a more intense situation.
A part of live shows, your work is linked to art installations, whose destination are often art institutions. Which kind of approach you have with these works? Do you think that in these ones is involved a greater freedom of expression or not?
Yeah, the perfect freedom we will never get. So for me, it's a nice alternate to jump from time to time, because every night in a club can be a ghetto. But I would also say to spend your life in a gallery or in institutions like that, it's also a bit poor at the end, yeah, and a bit homophobe, yeah. So I mean, so here is a lot of life inside. It's a little bit dirty and all this, but to critic, so even the concentration is less, yeah. So if you go to a museum or to a gallery, concentration is much more high. But then it also starts that everything have to be super important. It's less spontaneous. So I really try to mix the worlds. Yeah.
Raster Noton has among its aims the one to unify music, art and science. How science is involved in this process?
Yeah. Today we wouldn't say any more science to this, but let's say we are very influenced from the aesthetic of science, because we don't think that, or let's say, for example, all the statistics and analytics, it has their own aesthetic. And this aesthetics we was very often using for example, RICHIESTE is using a lot this kind of data streaming. Yeah. So I would say we are not scientists. We don't have the chance to be scientists. I mean, and I think especially in acoustics. So this acoustic reverb on a stereo speaker is not really interesting for scientists. But we are very impressed from science, especially. It doesn't have to be brand new science, it can be even older. So we work a lot with that. For example, when I do visuals, I feel sometimes like doing geometry. Yeah, so it's a little bit like Euclidean geometry. So for us, as an inspiration, as a source of inspiration, science is very important.
The big move for electronic music worldwide was the one from specialized and limited public to big audiences and participation. How did it happen, in your opinion?
Yeah. Today I don't know so much. Was it the right way? Because you know, when we started the label, you always have to do something fresh. For example, we skipped all faces out of the label. We had no big headlines on the records. Just to say, forget about this. It's not important. Yeah? So, I mean, today there is no difference anymore between an Alba Noto record and a Coco Chanel perfume. So, in a way, it's the same aesthetic. So we have to move. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's not a law. These are just tools we're using, and especially design-wise, we stripped a little bit down our design wishes, because first it's about the music. Second, it have to be nice package, and it's okay, but it doesn't have to be too much package for to fit together.
And anyhow, you are very much involved in the graphic and design of the label that has a very strong and precise identity. Which has been your more important choices in this field?
At the end, we don't know. So, I mean, we never had a master plan and then we decided, okay, let's this, and then we become strong or whatever. So, I think the general idea behind is, if I can take out something, I take it out. So, I mean, I'm not impressed about things you do something because it's possible to do. Yeah. So we all have these smartphones, for example. So, but I think we don't need millions of applications just on the phone. Yeah. That's too much. So it's a little bit similar. Can be similar with the design. Yeah.
And the success of electronic music is linked also to the diffusion of digital devices. How do you imagine that this aspect could have consequences on the music of the future, in terms of more diffusion, more participation, more artists on the scene and on the web? It's going this way.
Yeah, I tell you, we are totally opposite. So, I mean, we are a bit afraid about all these machines, and you know, in the beginning it was a lot of freedom. Now my machine is telling me, you have to update this, or you have to do this, or whatever. So, and in a way, we all go through very tiny wires to get our information and to catch our world. Yeah. So, I mean, we are not so super enthusiastic anymore about this technology. Why not doing a book or something?
On the other hand, maybe you are enthusiastic about the resistance of the vinyl and in this success.
Yeah, I mean, even this you have to see critic, yeah? Because, okay, vinyl is growing, but I have to tell you, there are less friends, they have a record player at home. I don't know where the vinyls are going. Yeah, maybe people collect it and then they use the download code. But anyway, so it tells me that we especially something what we really like, in a way we want to have it for us, even in the physical dimension. And I have to say, so all my digital files, it's so much work or it's such a stupid work. Maybe it's not much work, but it's stupid work to hold my mediathek up to date, to synchronize this with different machines, then I need a iCloud or it's too much. Yeah.
Well, all our lives are both digital and physical.
Yeah.
So do it this way.
Yeah, I mean it's nice. I think the digital information is very quick, is very up to date. But if you want to save something, it's better you put it in your bookshelf or in your record shelf.
Thank you very much, Olaf.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.